The story you're about to hear is fictitious. You're watching Random Stories of Nonsense.
Turpentine, lavender, some seaweed, a double crosser, 5 lasers, a Twinkie, and some scissors, said the doctor as he turned to his assistant, requesting all those things so that he could operate appropriately. The patient lying on the table opened her eyes and said, "Doctor, what are you surgerying today?" And the doctor looked at her and said, "What you requested, my dear." And she said, "My memory's so foggy. What have I requested?" He looked up at the ceiling and saw a spider squirgling down from the ceiling. And he thought, this is not gonna be a good day. He just watched the spider as it landed on his nose, crawled over here, and then whack! Smushed it on his cheek. And he thought, I could have used this for a potion. See, this wasn't any ordinary doctor. This was a witch doctor, and his name was Carol. Carol the witch doctor. And he was a real bad guy. The patient, she was laying there and she looked around and she thought, hey, why isn't this a cleanly place if I'm gonna have surgery today? Then she realized she was in a dungeon. The Carol Witch Doctor dungeon of Kagarununa, and she wasn't about it at all. So, slowly, as the witch doctor was still examining the spider remains, she slipped out of her shackles, slithered off the table, and quietly tiptoed to the door. The assistant of the doctor, watching all the while, seeing and looking and waiting and pondering, and she slipped to the door, and she opened the door. She looked over to see if the witch doctor had heard. He hadn't heard yet. Still hadn't heard. And she snuck out, and she ran through the woods. And by the morning time, the doctor was not fixated on the spider remains anymore and looked at the table and thought, where's the patient? And the assistant said, "Sir, she's gone. She escaped." And the witch doctor said, "Why did you not stop her? What kind of assistant are you?" And the assistant ripped off his mask and said, "I am the king," and slaughtered the witch doctor. And when I say slaughtered, I don't mean like played patty cake with. I mean like made him die. So the kingdom was at peace once again. And who was that girl that was on the table? You guessed it. She was Mary, the girl from the cottage who knew things she wasn't supposed to know, like all of the witch doctor's secrets and spells. And Mary, she started practicing, and she became a witch doctor. And the king was like, dang it, that was my last costume mask. Now I gotta infiltrate her scheming ways. And he did. And he became her assistant after long years of apprenticeship and servitude. He infiltrated her situation. And the kingdom wondered, why is our king MIA for years at a time? And then when he comes back, a bad guy or a bad thing has been dealt with. He's sure a peculiar king. But no one knows anything anymore because the king infiltrated and won once more. And Mary was also, and by I don't mean they practiced hopscotch for a couple days. I mean, she died. And the king rode back on his stallion to the kingdom and announced, "We are free once again. My servants and my people, we will be friends for a long while, for a very long time, until once again I must leave you all and recite a poem I once wrote down when I was a child. People are like, wait, he's talking about a poem. What poem? He said, never mind about the poem. It's just something I do in my downtime. I recite a poem. It just gets me motivated to go and save the kingdom. You guys are focusing on the wrong thing that I'm trying to announce here. I'm just saying I've saved us once again and I'm back to do the kingly duties. And they're like, okay, fine. Just wanted to know. You brought up the poem. We just wanted to know what you meant by that. And he's like, okay, I'm sorry I brought up the poem. Can we move on now? And they're like, yeah. So they brought him in and he ruled for many, many years in peace, harmony, tranquility, and leisure and fidelity.